Hello everybody, this is Brittany and I am back today with a video to show you how to fill out a purchase and sales agreement. My most viewed video is called Why I Don't Use an Assignment Contract, and in that video I explained that I use a purchase agreement on my seller side and my buyer side and explaining all the reasons why. But the bottom line is this: I do not want my buyer to negotiate the price that we work out based off of my assignment fee. I want it to be based off the property itself and the value that it brings to my buyer. So that's why I do decide to use purchase agreements and I close it as an assignment. I will link the video below if you are curious to see it. And in this video, let's get into it. I have some details here that we're going to play around with while we are filling out the contract. So our players in this wholesale deal is Mr. Sam Seller, Mrs. Britt Buyer, and Wendy Wholesaler. The property address we'll be using is 123 Main Street, Louisville, Texas 75123. Our seller's price is $100,000. Our seller's earnest money deposit is $10. Our assignment fee is $4,000. Our buyer's earnest money deposit is $2,000, and our buyer's price is $104,000. I want to clarify where I have the seller's earnest money deposit at $10. That's actually what Wendy Wholesaler will be paying the seller. Okay, just to clarify that piece there. I am going to switch over to the seller's contract here. All right, so we're going to just start at the top and we're going to work our way down. So I'm going to use today's date. So the 14th day of April, and we are in the magnificent 2019, and our seller is Sam Seller, and our buyer here on our seller's agreement is Wendy Wholesaler, aka you and me. Okay. And so here, the next line to fill out is the street address. I do, depending on if I can get it, I will put the legal description of the property here. I have used both. I've used the legal description and I've used just the regular street address. The street address does well. It's not anything wrong with using it. I do know when you close, the title company does use the legal description on like the official document. So I have included it here before, but I know either the regular property address or the legal description works. So here we're going to use just the regular street address, 123 Main Street, Louisville, Texas, 75123. Okay. And it says personal property included. Property is sold as is. This is a part of our marketing to our sellers that, listen, if you need to sell quickly and at a discount, we will take your property as is with no further contingencies, repairs, or asks from the seller. So we put this here. Property is sold as is. So our purchase price, the purchase price for Sam Seller and Wendy Wholesaler is $100,000. Okay. Existing loans and fees, I put 0 for right now. Your title company will do the due diligence to see if and how much are any existing loans and any existing liens on the property that needs to be settled. We don't know this at this point, so we just put 0. I will explain further how we're able to get this understanding up front with between you and the seller. So the earnest money deposit that Wendy Wholesaler is paying to Sam Seller is $10. So we include it here. And so at this point, What will be due to Sam's seller at closing is $100,000 minus the $10, $99,990. Yes, I did use a calculator. Please don't judge me. All right. So this next line we see the purchase price to be paid as follows. Buyer will pay all closing costs. Any unpaid taxes, mortgages, or liens will be deducted from the balance due to the seller. So as I stated before, this existing loans and liens says zero here, but we include this clause here because anything that is uncovered during the title search process where it's showing that the seller has outstanding loans and liens, it's understood that that will be coming from the $99,990 that's put here. So the balance due to the seller in the amount of, or we're going to just include the $99,990 shall be paid as follows. So for my title company, you can either receive a check or wire. So here your seller can choose if they would like to get their money via check or via wire. So we're just going to say Mr. Sam seller said he wanted to receive his stuff via wire. Okay. And so here's some other clauses that's in here. I will scroll slowly if you want to review those. It's just the legal fluff, you know what I'm saying, to protect everybody involved. I'm just going to focus on the actual fields that you will have to complete with your seller and your buyer when you're filling out your purchase agreements, okay? So that next field is here on part 5, closing date and transfer of title. So since we use today's date, the 14th, we're going to put it 30 days out, or let's just use the same calendar date for the next month. And we're going to use May 14, 2019 because that is what Wendy Wholesaler and Sam Seller negotiated. In our business, our pitch to our sellers is, if we can close within 2 weeks to 30 days, will you take a cash offer from us? And they're like, yes, you can close that quickly and give me my cash? Absolutely. So unless there are some other parameters, I typically like to shoot for a 30-day close. You use whatever works best for your business. Other wholesalers may use a 60-day or 90-day mark. That's totally left up to you. So here I have the actual name of the title company that I've used before, pre-populated here. This is where you would include your title company that you will be using, so everybody knows who to contact and where the closing will be. So here's some other clauses, 6 through 9. I will scroll slowly if you would like to review those during the video. So I like this clause here at the bottom of this page. This is intended to be a legally binding contract. If you do not understand the legal effect of any part of this contract, seek legal advice before signing. I do have the word contract in here, right? But when I am engaging with my seller, I use the word agreement because typically people have less resistance around the word agreement versus contract. Contract people get all tense. It's it's a big deal, which it is in the sense, but mentally they have a lot more resistance around the word contract than agreement. So just a rule of thumb when talking to your seller, see how using the word agreement works better than actual contract. All right, so we've gotten to here where Wendy Wholesaler and Mr. Sam Seller have reviewed everything. Everything looks good, and so we're ready to sign. So Mr. Sam Seller goes down here, and he is signing off on his property at 123 Main Street, and the buyer here is Wendy Wholesaler. So Wendy Wholesaler is going to sign her name. Now I do want to call out these additional terms. Beginner wholesalers like to know, if I needed to get out of this contract, what legally can I include on the contract, or what just covers my butt? If I can't find a seller, if I can't find a buyer, or just I'm not able to fulfill my agreement, what can get me out of it? So here are the terms that I include where I could legally sever my contract with the seller. The first one is subject to funding partner's approval. The second one is subject to appraisal acceptable to buyer. And the third one is in event of buyer's default, deposit is sole remedy. So these are the three clauses that I include if I did want to use these as a way to legally back out of my contract. The only recourse that the seller would have legally based off of what they signed will be just the $10 that Wendy paid to Sam seller, okay? And so this concludes us filling out the purchase agreement on the seller side of this wholesale deal. Okay, so now let's get geared up to fill out the purchase agreement between Wendy Wholesaler and Mrs. Britt Buyer. I just wanted to remind all of us about the players. On this side of the deal, we will have Mrs. Britt Buyer and Wendy Wholesaler, same property address, and now we're playing around with the assignment fee. The assignment fee is $4,000. The buyer will be paying Wendy Wholesaler $2,000. And our buyer's price is $104,000. Okay, so let's just jump into the deets over here. All right, so let's use tomorrow's date as the date for this one. Let's say you signed it with your seller and you found your buyer super fast. Okay, so let's just use tomorrow. So we got April 15, 2019. So our seller for this B2C side of this wholesale deal is Wendy Wholesaler. And the buyer, your end buyer, is Mrs. Britt Buyer. Okay. And so here our street address is 123 Main Street, Louisville, Texas 75123. Our buyers know in our wholesale business, we sell our properties as is, no contingencies, no any of that, okay? That's why we are passing off the great value. So the purchase price is $104,000. Now let's stop right here. So at this point, Mrs. Britt Buyer does not know what Wendy Wholesaler has the contract for with the seller, okay? Mrs. Britt Buyer and Wendy Wholesaler negotiated the $104,000 outside of any knowledge of that, okay? Mrs. Britt Buyer is coming in, assessing the deal, seeing the value, knowing where she wants to be as far as all in with the project. So Wendy Wholesaler and Mrs. Britt Buyer agreed upon $104,000, okay? Now, Wendy Wholesaler, though, on the other hand, knows that her A to B contract is for $100,000, and she built in her spread of $4,000, and therefore her and Mrs. Britt Buyer came to a price of $104,000. Now here, our Mrs. Britt Buyer put up a $2,000 earnest money deposit, okay? I have my buyer put their deposit up with the title company just to make everybody feel more comfortable. I know some wholesalers take the earnest money deposit straight from the buyer. To each his own. I prefer for them to make the check or money order or official check or cash straight to the title company so everybody feels good about that part of the scenario. So here we're going to include that Mrs. Britt Buyer is putting up a $2,000 earnest money deposit. Existing loans and liens, 0. And cash to seller at closing would be the $104,000, right? Minus the $2,000. So it'll be $102,000. Look at the earnest money deposit that Mrs. Britt Buyer put up as payment towards the purchase price, right? So if all goes well, she's already put $2,000 towards the purchase price. So that means that the cash back to, I'm using quotations here, to Wendy Wholesaler will be $102,000. Okay. And it says here, buyer will pay all closing costs minus any unpaid taxes, mortgages, or liens. In our business, our sellers is off the hook for the most part. Really, in my business, I don't expect for my sellers to pay closing costs. As the flip man says, which is a person that I look up to, and it's actually who I got this contract from. I just tweaked it around to work for me. But the flip man says this: everything is negotiable. I totally agree with that. At the end of the day, I'm willing to do whatever it takes that's ethical and legal to get this deal closed. So, but in theory, I don't want my seller paying closing costs, and in theory, my buyer is paying out closing costs. Okay. Earnest money is non-refundable. Of course, if something happens to where the title company is not able to deliver a clean title, Mrs. Britt Buyer gets her $2,000 back. If Mrs. Britt Buyer decides to walk away from the deal for whatever reason, the $2,000 is Wendy Wholesalers. So the balance due to the seller in the amount of $102,000 shall be paid as follows. Wendy Wholesaler wants a wire. And so here are the same clauses that we have. I use the exact same contract. I just made some tweaks. And I'll show you as I get there. I will still scroll slowly. And closing date and transfer title, I'm going to use the same close date as it is on the seller's contract, which is May 14th. Now, I know some people right here, they actually give their buyers on their closing sheet, they give them 2 weeks. I don't. I just give them the same close date as on my purchase and sales agreement with my seller. I have the title company listed here so everybody knows where we're closing. So damage to property. There are some other clauses that you can actually review as I scroll slowly down to the bottom of the contract. All right, so now it's time. Wendy Wholesaler and Mrs. Britt Buyer are all on the same page. All is well with the agreement and everybody is ready to sign. Now, as you see here, there are no additional terms here. Why? Because we're not giving our buyer an out on this. There is no contingency periods or due diligence periods. It's literally, we allow our buyers, before we even get to this point, to look at the property, bring their team out, consult with their experts to see if it's a great deal and for what we are offering as a wholesaler to them. So they're doing their due diligence before we get to this point, as in a way for them to decide if this is right for them. Okay, so that's why we don't have any additional terms on this contract here. So all is well. So Wendy Wholesaler is going to sign right here. And Mrs. Britt Buyer is going to sign right here. And so that is it. I hope, guys and gals, I hope that this video is helpful. Any questions that you have, please leave them below. My intent that this is helpful for you to walk through the contracts that you have in order to close on your wholesale deals in your business. If you have any questions, you can leave them below. If you want to check out the contract that I use in my wholesale business, I will leave the link to my Google Docs below to where you can have access to that. Okay, you can download it and print it and tweak it. It is in a format that you can tweak. I hope this video was helpful. It is so good to be back with another video. My desire is that this is a help to you in your wholesaling journey. I hope you all have a great week. This is Brittany checking out. And I will be talking to you all soon. You all take care. Peace and love.